Servus. Ich habe lange Zeit nicht gestreamt. Liegt daran, dass mein PC kaputt ist. Aber gestern kam endlich nach ewig langer Zeit das Remaster zu Sky no Yoru raus. Oder Witch on the Holy Night. Und ich dachte, ich überprüfe mal, ob das streamen kann von der PS4 aus, ohne Probleme. Und ja, es ist anscheinend möglich. Darum fangen wir heute blind an. People die when they are killed. It was a winter's day, 8 years prior when it happened. The solemn morning, when she understood the value of life for the very first time. Her home was nestled on the side of a mountain. Around it was nothing but inhospitable wilderness. She had no neighbors or childhood friends to speak. Things like traveling to school or playing outside were more trouble than they ought to be. Indeed, with its pure water and bright stars, it was a place rich with memories, both frustrating and Halcyon. That was only during summer, though. Winter in those mountains were extremely frigid, each morning more surf than the last. Her father would drive her to the train station after waiting 10 minutes for the engine to warm up and iced over windows to clear. Her father would savor this morning coffee, leaving her to venture outside and rev the engine. Out the front door she would go, traversing the garden with icy breath, until she reached that old sedan. As always, she inserted the key, then stepped to ignition. The engine rumbled to life. Just as proudly finished that humble task she would have done so many times before. A shrill scream pierced the air. She knew, even though it was human, that the feeble sound was a cry of agony. A few moments passed. Her father came out and opened the hood of the car, cracking fan belts. A monstrous looking engine, and something that didn't belong. The word cat mother, by the looks of it, the two kittens. The 3 cats had been huddling for warmth with the engine's compartment. The mother cat was missing its head. One of the kittens has been mangled beyond recognition by the engine, but it surely died instantly. The other kitten's face is half covered in blood, painted faintly. A desperate clung to its mother, or rather, the chunk of meat it was its mother with its last bit of life it could muster. Her father lamented the plight. The previous night had been especially cold. After he returned home yesterday, the cats must snuck under the hood, drawn by the warmth of the engine. They slept next to the engine and awoken to a storm of spinning bells. Cars in the 80s were not sealed particularly well, so this was not unheard of. Her father's voice seems distant. She could only make out a small tuft of the kitten's grey fur. The rest of it was cloaked in blood of its mother and brother. I can see its scar, the fragile life of a speckled kitten, Trembling and possibly blind, it continued to nuzzle against its dead mother's chest. She took the kitten into her arms and ran deep into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Was it because she was overcome with regret? Or was it the shock of grief? Years later, she still wasn't sure. Fighting back the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help. The cave-dwelling magician said indifferently, "This kitten needs our help," she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task, or her cool in labor, her grandpa would not say. He simply granted the girl's childish wish, like a machine. That girl said. Before she knew it, however, she was holding a tiny corpse in her hands. Its fur was cold. The warmth of life had left its body. The tears she had fought, sought to hold back, poured from her eyes. Regret spread through her chest like an endless grey sky. Oh, arme Katze. Her mind struggled to come to grips what just occurred. The last 10 minutes were totally blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once extinguished, can never return. That day, it was her mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed. Whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago. The day they first met, that no magic can ever bring back. Ooh. Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy. I must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. If my pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of a little Red Riding Hood. Chapter 1. Strange One. Das war vielleicht ein grausames erstes Kapitel. It was a quiet morning. Ich wollte zurückspulen. It was a quiet morning. From her bed she could see the sky was an ashen watercolor grey. The thermometer displayed 43 Grad Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke her up. For a girl of perfectly reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like that today. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On an ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable, but today classes were cancelled and combination of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was all gloomy grey, and it reminded her more of evening and morning. It was a pleasant morning by any stretch of imagination, but having been all up until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep, as long as she could spend her morning in bed. What was happening outside was no concern to her. She shut the curtains, then closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Reclaim her. A blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request was mercilessly refused. A faint but shrill scout lingered in her ears. It was 3 unmistakable rings of a telephone. Much of her charging, out of habit, her eyes popped open. The telephone was suited in the foyer on the first floor. Answering meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. Hoffentlich ist da kein verrückter Priester am Telefon. In a sleep-deprived state, the distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone incessant ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. She thought the housemaid would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The necessity struck that her housemaid did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at her prestigious little hilltop academy. The caller proved incredibly persistent. The persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder. She was left with no choice but to get up and throw her top on and leave the room. Warum muss sie sich was anziehen? Könnte doch noch ein nacktes Haus laufen, wenn sie alleine ist. She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, where one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by dense forest. Winter always arrived here before morning on the nearby towns. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated throughout the loud hallway. The mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that made the place feel unlived. It seems lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with dreary morning, it could have pressed for a haunted house.
ま、幽霊屋敷そのものだけど、だいたい2人で住むには広すぎるのよ、この家は。
She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. The caller either had a lot of free time on hands or had a good understanding of the house, the circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. The window above looked out onto a gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in action as soon as possible. Throughout, she had a feeling that a happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here the series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale. For whatever is objectively true or merely supposition, it's always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. Planning Takashi Takiguchi Kinoko Nazu. Ich mag die Musik. Scenario Kinoko Nazu. Der Pilzmann, der lügt. Diese Visual Novel war ursprünglich nur in Japanisch. Jetzt kam endlich der englische Release raus. Das Wetter ist so scheiße bei denen. Ich soll bei uns heute am Wochenende schneien. Ich hasse ja Schnee und Winter. Witch on the Holy Night. The rain had subsided somewhat by the time she reached the school gate. Sunlight seemed playing peekaboo behind the clouds in the distance. It looked like it might be clearing up by early afternoon.
と言っても、私には関係のない話だけど。
The weather reflected her luck. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. Watashi? I have a bad feeling about this. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Ich weiß, dass das erste Symbol Watashi ist. Glaube ich das. Akebi. Mal schauen, ob ich das Symbol finde. Ja, das ist Watashi. We als wir. I, me. Ich. oder Private Affairs, wenn man es als she sieht. Das andere Symbol ist Tatsu, to stand rise, splendid fine, dann ist es, glaube ich, das nächste ist, glaube ich, 3. Ja, das ist Sun, Nummer 3. Ah, es ist auf jeden Fall eine Schule. Ich kenne das Symbol für Schule. Ich glaube, es ist eine Privatschule. The sinking feeling. She had only grew as she has passed through the entrance and had headed inside. Bingo! She didn't encounter any other students along the way, nor did she see anyone taking part in the club activities either. The reception desk to the faculty room simply read, "Faculty closed." The school had given all of its students the day off, except those explicitly summoned, like her. A fact that irked her more and more as the minute passed. She opened the door to the faculty room and headed towards the desk. She had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and a suit, but nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim framed glasses adorned his face, giving off an amicable yet caring air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with the cigarettes he smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet. She closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamashiro lifted his head.
Yeah, ohayo, Aozaki-kun. 要件は聞いているかな?
はい、1時間前に自宅で事前に何の相談もなく。
Having graduated from his high school himself, Mr. Yamashiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, students preferred him over the other teachers. He always had something interesting to talk about and kept conversation casual. In fact, he seemed like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness for him. She was of the opinion that the teacher should come across as more austere, like an iron fist that could inspire both love and hate in equal measure. Not a body to choke and pal around with. She was the exact opposite of how he was the exact opposite of how she felt a teacher should be. It was only natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly. Not that she would be ever wired to make friendly small talk.
今日もご機嫌斜めみたいだね、君は。
それは先生の気のせいです。今日だけ特別という話ではありませんから。
The matter of fact, the unspeakably mentioned displeasure displayed on her face, her bad mood from having get up early, and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look possibly adversarial.
そうならいいんだけどね。彼にはそう辛く当たらないでくれよ。僕らじゃ正直どう扱っていいかわからないところもあるし。
先生、その件ですけど、私まだ詳しい話を聞かされていないのです。
As Mr. Yamashiro met her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out the cigarette.
電話じゃあなんて聞いたの？
転入生の紹介をする とだけです。理由も脈絡もない説明でした。
One of Yamashiro's eyebrows stood up, impressed with the brevity of her answer. He could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she hadn't been told why she was here. Mr. Yamashiro chuckled sympathetically.
先生、これが笑い話ならそろそろ帰っていいでしょうか。
いや、ごめんごめん、謝るよ。冗談じゃなくて真面目な話なんだ。ちょっと君の手を借りたくてね。
本当に転入生の問題で。
うん、訳ありというか難しいというか。
Okay. Beschreib's bitte näher.
宗十郎くんというんだけど、ちょっといろいろとずれていてね。僕らが案内してあげるより同世代の君の方が適任だと思ったんだ。
She threw up an amused look. It was negligent of them to pushing teaching duties on her, but she didn't wonder how exactly this was peculiar. Maybe he meant the students had behavior problems or was difficult somehow. But peculiar? She didn't have the slightest idea what that meant. Ich auch nicht, also... Sonderbar. Was kann man mit sonderbar ausdrücken? She had doubts but snapped them aside for now. This was the time to get distracted by more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was all the peculiar she could handle, and she needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up in a warm bed at home.
一つ質問があります。
何？あ、学年は君と同じ2年生だよ。性格は落ち着きがあって人の話をよく聞くタイプ。裏を返せば覇気がないとも取れるけど、それならそれで付き合いやすいだろ。
Finde ich trotzdem ein bisschen komisch, wenn du mich fragst.
青崎くんとはクラスは違うけど、きっと仲良くな。
そういったことは本人から直接聞きますし、測ります。そうではなく、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Ich nehme an, weil du eine riesen Villa hast. The tone was still stern. It was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task at hand. Forcing herself to act apathic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, this force of will was also the reason he should put so much faith in her. To a point. At times his strength shattered expectation, and those occasions they were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster and never until it passed. That was how Mr. Yamashiro had come to deal with her as over the past year.
もう一度だけ聞きます、山城先生。それで、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Pushing my question without a clear yes or no answer, he answered.
それはね、別に青崎くんが先生方に敬遠されているのと同じぐらい信頼されていて、学校のためなら教師も生徒も一緒くたに切って捨てる鉄の生徒会長だからじゃないよ。
Okay, also auch schon mal Student Council President?
それ以外にこんな呼びつけを受ける理由はないと思いますけど。
Rice did nothing to hide her disbelief as she glared at him. Strength far beyond that of an ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of one. Mr. Yamashiro let slip a genuine smile, battling the miraculous balance of qualities.
いや、責務だけでいいなら僕がやってるさ。この人選に関しちゃ教師や生徒会長といった役職も関係ないよ。
Okay.
こんな頼みを損得抜きで聞いてくれるのは君だけだと思ってね。適任ですからと強く推薦したわけ。
Okay. In other words, he knew she wouldn't say no.
山城先生。
うわ、怖っ。もう睨まない睨まない。言ったろ、僕にはともかく彼には笑顔でって。まあ納得してくれたならすぐに移動しよう。もう随分待たせてしまっているからね。それと雨の中ご苦労様。帰りはもちろん車de送るよ。
Das ist übrigens noch nett. Mr. Bashir stood up gracefully. Oh oh. Ein Ride nach Hause? Nicht, dass es doch so ein, Kamoshida wird. Ein good thanks, she replied, before turning and walking out of the faculty room. He had been waiting for about an hour. What he did, the rain sure lightened into a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. The room was filled with neatly arranged rectangular tables. He was the only one there. Quite some time has passed since he had been brought to this room and asked to wait. Even the behaved student might have grown dissatisfied or anxious with the situation by now, but the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November, and the low temperature in the morning. He marked the start of winter. Ja, ich hasse Winter. Wirklich hasse Winter. The room was not much warmer. The heater had been turned on. If he would be missed, the teacher telling him to turn it on, or he would never see one in his lives. Hi, Spooky! He breathed lightly at his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This dreary place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him it was drab and overly spacious. It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned to what they want to discuss. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned his attention to the sound of the rain. The rain had resembles the rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it barely. Its smell and sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even this world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains. Ich muss sagen, ich krieg ein Flashback mit Kentucky. The trivial detail perked him up a little. He liked how the town looked soaked in rain. Naturally he preferred sunny weather, but he liked rain in his own way. Na, ich bin mehr der Sommer-Sonnenschein-Typ. The fog from rain had soaked up the sand of the soil and reminded him of home. It was the time like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him. But then he let the discourse aside. How pathetic. He would already been here 2 weeks, and though of a sometimes still made him sad. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. As if having a passion for distraction, his attention returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem to be particularly hard for him. He quietly endured the numbing cold and the hour long with calm, deep breaths. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was clear, certainly helping him out in the moment. She, on the other hand, was livid. The people of the transfer student had been explained to her the problems that had to her on the way to the meeting room. Ich bin schon gespannt, wie ihr erstes Treffen wird. She was told he had lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. I have a bad feeling about this. Ein Leben in den Bergen ohne Elektrizität, das schreit nach Magierkind. That by more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery of him.
なんて絶望的な断絶。戦後どころか戦前の話じゃない。ロビンソンにも程がある。
She had every right to be angry. His village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with the village in the foothills of the mountains only occurred once a month or so, before unfavorable in modern Japan. Also, expressways and Japan Rail, the old national railways now, span the country like arteries. It was entirely impossible for a mountain village like this to exist. But you couldn't imagine how someone born with such circumstances would think or live.
電気がないって、村に行き渡っていないだけで公衆電話ぐらいはあったんですよね。
なかったそうだよ。こっちに暮らすようになってまず驚いたのが電話だそうだし。電話って便利ですねなんて真顔で言われてね。そういえばそうだなぁと再確認させられたぐらいだよ。
Then she shot a sidelong glare in his way as he laughed. It seems that the native of the country boy had been cheered up with their machines a bit.
駐在もいないってことか。うちも実家は山奥ですから電気が通っていないのはありえないとは言いませんけど、そいつ学校も知らないんですか？
うん、どんなものかは知っていたそうだけど実際来るのは今日が初めてらしい。それで緊張していたのかな。あまり会話も弾まなかった。ああいうのも野生児っていうのかな。狼に育てられた狼少年みたいな。あ、いや探検隊の話だね。怖いな青崎くん。冗談だって。そう睨まないでくれ。大丈夫。話してみた感じおとなしい子だったから。なんていうか言葉の通じない小動物みたいな感じ。
Man.
山城先生、その例え気休めになってませんから。
Ich stimme mit der Auge zu. As she gave a blunt reply, she tried to simulate in her mind what life without electricity would be like. But the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, it was a world she had never known. She could understand why the teachers had given up. She too wanted to give up and return to a warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe she was up to the task, but she also believed she could do it. It wasn't easy to go back on her word, no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway with the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already inside. With a thorough brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of confident general going into battle.
いや、青崎くん、君を信頼してる僕だけど、念のため確認しておくよ。なんていうか、優しくね。
作り笑いは苦手です。一応努力しているつもりですが。
あ、そうなんだ。いやー、ほんとよかった。青崎くんにも苦手なものってあったんだね。
Mr. Bashir's shoulders slumped in the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his head to the door, his eyes seemed to say to her, "Be nice, please." This only made her more irritated.
分かってるわよ、愛想が悪いってのは。でも笑顔なんて意識して作るものじゃないんだし。
Vielleicht wird ihr lächeln und wird. Mr. Bashir's shoulders slumped the second they reached his meeting room. Ah, so.
分かってるわよ。大体そういうインスタントな人付き合いなら飛び丸の方が向いてるって。
She sighed about her shortcomings, but then occurred to her that being called into school a day off while sleep deprived was anything to smile about anyway. She also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending elementary school. It might be his fault, but neither it was the duty or obligation to do the teacher's work for them. At the very least, they could have used their brains and organized all this on a normal school day. Another complaint she wants to voice later.
というか敵。なんであろうと敵。悪いけど、情状酌量以前に敵。
Ist da auch eine Zunde oder was?
間が悪いのはお互い様っていうか、ほんと、なんでよりにもよってこんな忙しい時に。
Japan hated from lack of sleep had boosted her recession by 10%. No matter how harmless the girl never said the door may be, anyone who disturbed the sleep was the enemy. Ja, sie erinnert mich an Rin. And just as she was reaching peak annoyance, Mr. Bashiro opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities, just looked straight ahead and stood into the room, and found herself face to face with an unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another perspective. Turning back the clock just a little. You don't have to do anything. For some of these words are pleasantly luxury, for others they're unbelievably torture. For the protest girl, it was definitely the former, though she would be too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the later, a bit torn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfectly posture as he started the grey sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had the reasons for making him wait. As long as they had the sound of the rain to soothe it, he could keep on waiting.
でもそろそろ9時を過ぎるのか。どうなんだろう。
He had been very keeping track of time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of rain on the window. The mood felt as damp as the air. It was then he heard heavy clatter of footsteps approaching.
忘れられているかと思った。
He could hear two sets of footsteps, one heavier, set belonging to an adult. He brushed himself release as the door slid opens.
すまないね。随分とお待たせしちゃって。
The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Bashiro, the one who brought me here.
あれ？里中先生いないんですか？ひどいな。話し相手になってあげてと言ったのに。
Mr. Bashiro scratched his head, looking increasingly apologetic. And then, from behind him, the tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there, A dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared. Are you my master, Aoko? Sushiro gulped. The sound of rain at the window filled with nothingness. That's when he knew. This wasn't how it felt when time stood still. She blinked quickly a few times as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected, a naive country boy to look like. However, she felt something she couldn't understand. His eyes widened slightly as he takes her back. The reason was obvious. Putting his face to words was different matter altogether, so we'll never know exactly what he experienced at that moment. That's when it hit him. So, ich würde sagen, für heute hören wir auf und machen morgen weiter. Dann mal adios und vierte.